additional £14 million worth of savings that do not come from frontline fire stations, so they're separate to it. And that means that over the last 5 or 6 years, the authority will have saved some £66 million, which is quite a high percentage of the overall net revenue budget, as you can see, from areas that don't affect the number of fire stations, the number of firefighters, or the number of fire appliances. The next slide shows you where that money comes from. And the two largest elements of that, as you can see, are over 50% comes from a grant from government, from the Community and Local Government Department, and just over a quarter of it comes from the Mayor in terms of council tax. So the government passed that 56% of our budget onto the Mayor, and the Mayor then provides us with our budget overall that includes about a quarter of it's topped up by about a quarter by council tax. There are a range of other smaller contributors to the budget, as you can see there, described on the slide. The question many people have been asking is, why do we need to make savings at all? And the reason for that is twofold. Firstly, the government is reducing the grant that it gives to the Mayor to run the London Fire Brigade, and that's reducing by some £31.5 million over this year and next year, which is quite a significant amount of money. And also, as everyone will be aware, the Mayor is committed to reducing his council tax for Londoners by some 10% by 2016. Now, both of these elements reduce the amount of money available to run public services in London, and particularly these two elements really mean there's less money to run the London Fire Brigade. Together, those two pressures mean that we have to make savings of approximately £45.5 million over the next 2 years. Against that, I think it's also important to recognise how the work of the Brigade has changed in the last 10 or so years. And it's a fact that, first of all, the number of incidents that the Brigade attends, not just fires, just the total number of incidents, is actually a third lower than it was 10 years ago. So across the board, we attend a third lower number of incidents than we did 10 years ago. Fires themselves are at their lowest level since 1965, which is a significant achievement on behalf of the London Fire Brigade and all the firefighters at the fire stations. But half of all the incidents we now attend are in fact false alarms, so a significant amount of false alarms that we attend, and I'll come to that in a little more detail in a moment in terms of what we propose to do about that. Fewer people now die in accidental fires in their home than ever before in London. That's been a continually downward trend over the last 10 years, and I'll show you another slide in a minute to demonstrate how that's moved. And last year we attended fewer than 7,000 fires in people's homes in London, which once again is the lowest number for a very long time. Part of the plan, among the supporting documents, is projections of how we see the demand for the Brigade going in the future. And based upon what we've seen over the last 10 or 12 years, and the way we work in other areas rather than just fire response, just the response, we project that the number of incidents we attend in 2030, for example, will be lower than the number of incidents actually we attended in 2010. In terms of the people who die in fires, this slide, the columns, the numbers in them actually show you the actual number of people that died in fires in London each of those years. And the red line is the 10-year average of how many people died in fires. So the 55 at the end there is not a target, it's just where the average would be. And so the actual number of 49 last year was lower than what we projected in terms of the average. But that is certainly on the way down. Our service as well, London Fire Brigade, certainly provides the best response times in the country. Our response times are certainly better than the other emergency services in London. So if you go 999 and ask for a police response, an ambulance or a fire engine, you'll certainly get a fire engine arrive before the police or the ambulance service. And we say they're amongst the best fire brigade response all the time in the country. In my view, I'm certainly not aware of any other brigade in the country that's got faster response times than the London Fire Brigade, and once again, we're very proud of that. But against that, given the falling number of incidents that we attend, our fire engines are actually only utilised now at incidents on less than 7% of their time. And our busiest station actually attends incidents only at just about 16% of their time. When you correspond that to other emergency services, like particularly ambulance service, which is much, much higher, there is an issue there in terms of the experience the firefighters get at incidents, and how we make sure people are safe at incidents when they do attend them. In terms of our attendance standards, in 2005 the government abolished national attendance standards for the fire rescue service. So previously, before there were national standards set which every brigade had to aim to achieve based upon how they assess the risk in various parts of their area. And in 2005 those standards were wiped away, and it left for individual fire rescue authorities to set own attendance standards. Now, some fire and rescue authorities decide not to have any attendance standards at all, which is quite surprising, I think, and others decided to have differential standards, so depending on where you lived in the area, you might get faster response time for a fire engine than elsewhere in the area. In London, the London Fire and Emergency Planning Authority decided to set a single standard for both first and second appliances across the whole of London, and set that standard at 6 minutes for the arrival on average of a first fire engine, and 8 minutes on average for the arrival of a second fire engine at any incident anywhere in London. And this slide up there at the moment shows you how currently we achieve against the first appliance attendance standard. So you can see we don't manage that everywhere. That's a historic fact due to the location of our stations were designed to meet the old standards. We're gradually trying to work towards improving that across London so we can achieve our London-wide standard of 6 and 8 minutes on more occasions. I did mention earlier there's lots of other things in the plan as well as the proposals for station closures, and I'm sure that most people in the audience, if not everybody tonight, has come along because of the proposals around station closures and pumping appliance reductions. But it is important that you also understand the other aspects of the plan, because this is not just a one part of the plan that's most important. Actually, all the elements of the plan go together in seeking to continue to reduce the risk to London and Londoners of fire and reduce the number of incidents we attend generally. So what we're planning to do in addition, we have new 3-year targets proposed in the plan. We've had targets for our performance across a range of areas for about 12 years now. They've been very, very important in terms of driving our performance and our attention, and I think they've been very successful in reducing the number of fires, the number of incidents, and the number of fire deaths and injuries that occur in London as a result. We're proposing new targets that I think are tougher than they have been previously, but we're interested in your views about whether they're the right targets, and indeed whether they have got targets, if they're the right ones, are they tough enough in terms of the performance we're proposing. There are reductions in the number of fire stations and fire engines and firefighters proposed, and I'll come to that in more detail in a while. We're also proposing to share fire engine crews with some special appliances, so on some stations, we do it already in some places, but there are more stations where we have one crew for a fire engine and actually available to provide 2 fire engines on their station, depending on which one gets the call. And we are also proposing to reduce the number of senior officers available in the brigade that are available there to command incidents and help me run the brigade on a day-to-day basis. We're proposing to lobby for more sprinklers in domestic accommodation. So we're planning to lobby the government for changes in building regulations, planners, developers, architects and builders to explain to them and to convince them of the benefit of the sprinklers in domestic accommodation, particularly in new builds. But also we feel that where people are identified as being at risk, and we do know the risk factors that contribute to people dying in fires, and we believe that where people are known to be at risk, there should be a domestic sprinkler installed in those premises as well. We're looking to lobby harder to get that in place, because we've seen the benefits they can have in other cities around the world, and also to some extent in this country now. We plan to give better access to businesses in the commercial sector regarding their responsibilities in their premises for fire safety. We are pleased that we suffer a relatively low number of incidents and injuries or deaths in busy premises. We want to improve that still further, and the way to do this is provide more information to people about how they can keep their workers safe. We also propose to have a renewed focus on road safety. It's a fact that with the lower numbers of incidents in terms of fires that we attend, some of our fire stations in some boroughs in London are actually attending more road traffic collisions than they are fires. And we believe that the right thing to do therefore is to use the expertise, the influence of our firefighters in the London Fire Brigade to support those that work in road safety to try to reduce the amount of road traffic collisions and injuries that take place on the capital's roads. We propose to refine or to improve our cost recovery system for releasing people from chain lifts. We've had that in place now for a few years and very successful. So where people continue to have people chain lifts in premises they're responsible for, and don't take action to either make sure the lift is serviced properly or have means in place to release them themselves, we now level charge after 10 attendances, and we believe that's been very successful because it has, and we intend to improve that still further. We propose to recover more costs from brigades around London, not so much an issue for this borough, but certainly in those boroughs in the outskirts of London we find that we attend incidents in other brigade areas more often than we've ever done before, because brigades outside of London have made operational reductions over the last 5 or so years, and we find London is getting called into brigades outside of London more regularly, and we believe we should be doing that because we think it's the right thing to do, but nonetheless we think we should be recovering the cost of that for London taxpayers. We're proposing that the Mayor should instigate a review of emergency service provision on the Thames. We know that the use of the Thames, particularly for passenger transportation, is increasing year on year, and we feel that the last time that the safety provision on the Thames was properly reviewed was sometime shortly after the Martinez inquiry, which is a long time ago now, and we think the safety provision on the Thames should therefore be reviewed again, and we're happy to contribute to that if it's agreed. I mentioned earlier about the numbers of false alarms that we attend, which is nearly half the incidents we attend, and we think we should be doing more work to reduce that. Now, we already do quite a lot of work to reduce false alarms. Our commands and teams work with particular premises in their area to reduce the number of false alarms, but we feel that the success we've had on people shutting lifts, i.e. the charging regime, should also be applied to people premises where we get repeated false alarms. So we will work with the owners and the people responsible for those buildings to help them reduce the amount of false alarms by giving them advice and assistance. However, if the number of false alarms doesn't come down, and if they're not responding to the advice we're giving, we believe we should start charging in future to a certain extent. Right, I'm going to move on now to the operational changes, because as I say, that's probably most people come here this evening. But please, when you fill out your consultation responses, please also take the time to respond on the other areas of the plan, because they are very important in terms of our proactive approach towards reducing the risk from fire and other emergencies in London and making London safer. In looking at how we plan the operational changes, a number of factors are really important to us. First of all, I've already mentioned about our 6 to 8 minute attendance targets for first and second appliances, and we aim to maintain those. We think they're the right standards, and we think it's right to have those standards across the whole of London, and our proposal is to keep those standards at 6 and 8 minutes. We propose to ensure that firefighters continue to work safely at incidents by a range of methods, a range of means that are in the plan, but importantly, the second appliance arrival time is very important in terms of firefighter safety. That's why we've got that target as well. And we also plan to retain at least 1 fire station in every borough, and it's an interesting one, because what most people don't recognise or understand is that the role of the London Fire and Emergency Planning Authority is to provide fire cover across the whole of London, irrespective of borough boundaries. And inevitably, fire stations are basically boroughs, and therefore people see that as their local fire station is very important to them. The fact of the matter is, we actually are required to provide the cover across the whole of London for mobilising purposes, i.e. sending fire incidents. We don't respect borough boundaries, mainly for emergency safety work. But we do propose to keep at least 1 fire station in every borough, because we believe that's important to have a presence for our proactive work as borough commander, to work with local authorities and partners to reduce the risk of fire. The proposals themselves are to close 12 fire stations across London, to remove 7 fire engines from stations that have currently got 2 fire engines, to move 4 fire engines to other stations. There would be 18 fewer fire engines overall, 520 firefighter posts would be reduced from the authority's establishment, but importantly, we plan to do that without any compulsory redundancy. So we believe that if we're given the opportunity to do these plans now, we will be able to do that without any recourse to compulsory redundancy, and the staff reduction will be able to be done by natural wastage and voluntary redundancy. The 12 stations that we propose to close are those on the list on the slide now. So Belsize, Bow, Clapham, Clerkenwell, Downham, Kingsland, Knightsbridge, New Cross, Silvertown, Southwark, Westminster and Woolwich. The stations that we propose to remove 1 fire engine from are those on the left, and are those at Chelsea, Chingford, Hayes, Leighton, Leytonstone, Peckham and Whitechapel. And we propose to add 1 fire station to the 4 stations on the right: Hendon, Albiton, Stanmore and Twickenham. In total, that would mean that London would still have 100 fire stations across London wide. We would still have 151 fire engines, 18 less than now. We would still have 4,584 fire station staff, which is obviously 520 less than now. We would still have 82 specialist vehicles. These vehicles are not necessarily just simple fire engines, they do other roles, and that's unchanged from where we are at the moment. And we would have 200 middle managers or officers, once again, to assist me in the work of running the brigade. Now, we're not trying to argue that will have no impact in terms of the service we provide to London, and in fact, obviously fewer fire engines will make a difference. Fewer fire engines, fewer fire stations will make a difference. But the model impact of these changes are as follows. We model that the average response or attendance time of the first fire engine in London would be 5 minutes and 36 seconds London-wide, which is 15 seconds slower than now. And a second fire engine would attend an incident on average in London in 6 minutes and 38 seconds, which is 16 seconds slower than now. But obviously, both still within our attendance targets of 6 minutes and 8 minutes. As I've said before, some areas will see improvements in their attendance time, others will see a reduction in their attendance time, depending on, obviously, how close you are to a fire station that would be either closed or lose a fire engine. In terms of our first fire engine target, this shows you what we model our achievement would be. So the green boroughs are those boroughs in London that on our modelling would receive the first appliance attendance time on average within 6 minutes, and the ones in purple are the ones where we still model that would still be slightly outside of that 6 minutes. There's actually one less borough in this, we improve by one borough that gets the first appliance attendance time. And this slide shows you the same information but for a second appliance attendance in 8 minutes. So we're down to only one borough on average would receive attendance for a second appliance in more than 8 minutes, which is a reduction from 4 as it stands at the moment. The next slide shows you some detail in terms of the model impact of the changes for first appliance attendance time in every borough. And as you can see there's pluses and minuses, and there are some zeros where there's no change. But that shows you exactly how we model it for individual boroughs. And in terms of a second appliance, same information on that slide there for a second appliance. So as you can see, once again, there are some pluses and minuses, and also some boroughs where there will be no change. I'm now going to move on to more detailed part of the presentation, which is about what the impact of this would be for Greenwich. First of all, some information about Greenwich in terms of how we assess the risk, or we look at the risk. First of all, between 2001 and 2011-12, that 10-year period, we conclude that the population has grown by some 17%, so quite big growth, and the number of households in Greenwich has gone up by about 9%, so the population density and the size has gone up in terms of the number of people living in Greenwich. But despite that, the borough commander and the staff that work in Greenwich and other people have been successful in reducing the total number of incidents we attend in Greenwich by some 46%. And the total number of fires that we attend in Greenwich has gone down by over half, and in fact gone down by about 57%. So despite the fact that the population has grown, the number of households has grown, we've been seeing the number of fires and the number of incidents total we attend dropping. And that's a similar position across the whole, if not all of London. In Greenwich, you have 6 fire stations currently, or we have 6 fire stations. East Greenwich, Eltham, Greenwich, Lee Green, Plumstead and Woolwich. In total, they comprise 7 fire engines and 3 additional specialist vehicles. And they comprise 208 operational staff across those 6 stations, and that costs the London Fire Emergency Planning Authority approximately £9.2 million a year in staffing costs. As I've said earlier, though, emergency cover is planned London-wide, and large incidents in London and the Fire Brigade area use resources from across the whole of London. So we don't resource an incident in Greenwich or any other borough simply from the resources within that borough. We take a very strategic approach and mobilise resources from across the whole of London, depending on what the incident commander needs to deal with the incident. And in fact, Greenwich receives fire engines into the borough about 11% of the time. They come from surrounding boroughs, and Greenwich sends fire engines outside the borough on about 31% of occasions to attend fires there. We also do a lot of work, firefighters do locally, in assessing local risks. And in Greenwich, station crews have identified about 360 buildings which they visit regularly to gather information about risk in those premises and have an understanding of the layout of the building. So if they do attend an incident there, they are more able to deal with it quickly and efficiently. And these buildings include things like schools, entertainment venues, sports venues, hospitals, railway stations, and a wide range of local businesses and other risks. The distribution of the station in the borough is as shown there, so you can see the red dots within the dark green area are the stations in Greenwich, and you can also see outside of that the other red dots, which is other stations in other boroughs, which would also provide cover in Greenwich as necessary. In terms of the changes in Greenwich that are proposed, the proposal will be for the Woolwich Fire Station to close, and there will be some other minor impacts from the closure of Downham Fire Station and the closure of New Cross Fire Stations in Lewisham Borough. In terms of the impact on attendance standards within the borough, our modelling suggests that a first appliance attendance in Greenwich would move from 5 minutes and 28 seconds on average to 5 minutes and 58 borough-wide, which is obviously an increase of some 30 seconds. And a second fire engine would increase by 35 seconds, from 7 minutes and 1 second up to 7 minutes and 36 seconds. So the modelling we use predicts that. The modelling is actually demonstrated over many years to be relatively conservative, and therefore we're confident that these standards will be achieved borough-wide. In fact, the borough, in the old risk standards, when I mentioned there about the old government standards, this borough was actually set as 90% to be what we would call C risk, which would mean that during that time the standard that the government asked us to apply would be for one fire engine to 10 in 8 to 10 minutes. So the air standards are significantly in advance or better of that. That's my presentation, so I hope it's given you some information in terms of the way the London Fire Brigade works, how we provide our service, the other issues in the London Safety Plan, as well as the pumping appliance and fire station proposals. Please take the time to fill out your consultation responses. If you want more information, these are the places on here to get it to. There's a website and there's a free phone number. Please take the time to read the plan. Please comment on all the plan, because we are keen on your views across the whole of the plan, because it is a holistic plan that we believe is the right thing to do for improving the safety of Londoners. Thank you.